everyone.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And thank you guys for joining us for another roundtable expert live with the dream team right here. Dr. Katie Woodley, Pam Roussel with Purrrfectly Holistic, and Julianne Thorne with Naturally Cats. And today's episode is all about fighting, which I'm really excited. You said this, I think we didn't talk about it, but I'm really excited for Julianne to be here today because she is also a behaviorist. So it's like an expert panel we've got going on here for this specific subject matter.
And it's a big subject. So we are going to do the formal introductions as we usually do. I think you guys all know our beautiful guests on the round tables, but Pam may have a little introduction that'll start this off on a beautiful foot.
Look at the teeny tiny. Hello. This is Breeze. Look at that face. Hi, Breezy.
How old are they?
13 weeks.
13.
They just on Thursday.
Okay, one more. Hang on. Oh, they've tired themselves out. This is Skylar. Hi, Sky. She's tiny. You're so tiny. She's so tiny.
Both girls?
Both girls.
Nice. So now
they're half sisters.
Nice.
Yep.
Great. So now you've got 3 girls?
I have 3 girls. Yes.
And 1 boy.
And 1 boy.
Oh, no. I know. Not a lot of testosterone in this house anymore.
Definitely outnumbered. So this is going to be exciting because introductions are also a place where people are like, I can't tell if they're fighting or if they're playing, right?
I can't tell you. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you guys how many videos we get per week of tell me, do I need to intervene? Is this okay? And it's literally kind of like the video at the countdown here of 2 cats that are usually a new kitten that comes into the household that are pouncing each other. And people are like, I don't know if I should allow this or if this is fighting. Is this fighting or playing? So that's really a great place to start. Julianne, what do you see or what do you coach people on when it comes to the signs? Yeah, identifying. Fighting versus playing.
It is a really tough one to call. There is not a really clear, it's this or it's this. It depends on the cat. So the start of the video here, I was actually watching it thinking, how would I interpret it? Right. And one of the things we have to remember is that cats are built for survival. Okay. So yes, there is play. When they're young, they're testing boundaries, their own physical limits, their strength, their personality. And there are the existing cats that are being defensive because, they're like, well, it's my territory, my space. So the difference between play and I love this, it's like cats everywhere. Where are my boys? Baby Max is asleep on the bed. The difference between play and fighting can be due to the duration and intensity are the things that I would say to look for. So read the ears, listen for the sounds. With my 2, when they first were being introduced, there were spats, I would say. And I was very conscious, being very aware of what they were doing. When cats start to yowl or cry, I would consider that has shifted from play to fighting. Okay, so that is something where we would need to intervene, which we'll come on to later. Cats do enjoy interactions. They are social creatures. So that's something we need to remember. They don't play like dogs. Okay. It's different because they're cats, but they do enjoy play because they enjoy connection and thriving with other beings. They've got good relationships. So I would consider looking at the cats that you've got. What are their personalities like? Is one cowering away while the other is hunting it around the front room, right? That's not a good situation. Even before you get to any interaction between them, you've got a problem because you've got a cat that is set on playing and will move and go wherever the moving other cat is, and you've got a cat that is retreating and withdrawing. So you need to intervene. You need to read the cats. And I know that may seem a bit hard for some people or may not know what that means or how to do that. But it really and truly is about reading the cats that you've got and looking at what they are doing. Is one being more aggressive than the other? And by that, I mean, is their interaction, let's not call it play or fighting, is the interaction more fierce? Are they being more aggressive? I don't particularly like the word dominant What have I said now that's funny? Because this happens to me every time I'm live.
No. We're actually laughing because we're the two crazy cat ladies over here that are dealing with cats that are fighting, and you're spelling out exactly what we're seeing.
Ah, okay, cool. So I don't always use the term dominant because I don't perceive that as the way that cats interact. That's more of a dog language, the dominant, the alpha, etc. It's more around the need. So think about, where is the emotion? What is the emotion behind the interaction, right? Is it fear? Is it defensiveness? Is it joy? Because then you can tell if it's play or if it's fighting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pause there and hand over to the ladies, because this is something that I could talk about for the whole hour. And I'm conscious that there is a lovely, beautiful round table of experts here.
No, but you're totally right. So we've got our Madison, who is the withdrawal one, right? And she's the one that ever so often any of the other cats might they want to hunt her because she's basically prey. She sets herself up as prey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so consistently have to intervene. Yesterday or the day before, all the days are together, I don't know. The other day, Annie was going after Friday.
And going after Friday, you use the word fierce. That is a perfect example of her. She does this thing with her head, and she just starts like going. It's like a wild cat.
It's cute. But she was, when you said testing their boundaries, that's what I said. I said, I feel like Friday can hold her own. Friday's going to be fine, right? Annie goes after Friday, is the one that ends up hissing or getting scared or screaming, and then runs away and comes back and does it again. And she wants to go after. And I'm like, we have to let this kind of happen. Like, watch.
Well, I'm curious to know your professional opinion on that. Is that a situation where, because honestly, we tried to intervene the first few times, when we can see Annie hunting Friday, and Friday's pretty, like, she sees her, she's not affected by it at all. But then if Annie comes in on her, then she's like, okay. And then she'll do her little meow and run away. And then she comes back 15 seconds and she's getting ready to hunt her again.
Try it again.
Is this testing boundaries? Annie's very young and she's perfect in every way. But is that testing boundaries with what is probably the matriarch of the cats?
It's testing boundaries in terms of establishing territory. So, you guys are a multi-cat home. So it may not have been around a certain, cat bed, for example. It could just be in and around the house. But what they're doing is they are creating territory boundaries. So, what they're doing is understanding who is the stronger cat. Now, I don't mean in terms of physical strength. I mean emotionally. I mean in terms of personality. So cats in general will do anything to avoid confrontation because they are built to survive. So they don't go looking for fight. They don't willingly cause a fight. It's from an emotion. It's for a reason. So Annie is probably aware that, she's quicker than Friday. Do you say Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's quicker than Friday because she's younger. Not a huge amount, but she is. So she's got that to her advantage. So that's why she'll try it and then circle back again, because she's like, oh, I'm gonna give it another go. Whereas Friday, like, will tolerate it so much, but then after a while we'll shut it down because she's like, no, thank you. Like, I'm done. You don't push me. I am here. Like, no, thank you. So intervening, I would say no, I wouldn't, because they have got to establish a relationship. That has to be established. It's not about who's more dominant. It's not about the alphas. It's about having a relationship with each other in the confined space of their home, which has all these overlapping territories. So if somebody is yowling or getting hurt, then yes, intervene. If the cat doesn't, if they've kind of like locked on, then yes, you need to intervene, right? You can't let that continue. If there is a situation where Friday is going at Madison, going at Annie and hunts her out, tries to find her to do this, that is fighting, that is attacking, that is negative behavior. You don't want to, you need to do something with that. So it's about looking at the frequency, the episodes, and how that happens. Like, is it around particularly one of you? When does it happen? Who's in the house? What other cats are around? Because it'll all be with, what are they trying to establish there?
Very.
I'm taking notes on this.
Yeah, this is good. This is good stuff for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, go on.
Nope, go ahead.
As I say, I want to know from Katie, like when my boys were fighting, I was really worried about Leo and his asthma, because I'm like, well, actually, this can't be good. Like I'm actually stressing Leo out more by bringing in baby Max. You know, we were doing introductions. They both had time out. They weren't like kind of just brought together. We were doing the introductions right. But I'd love it if Katie could talk a bit about, you know, the impact on the physical body when fighting is there, or when there is stress, you know, in the home with the cats. Like, how does it impact them?
So, you know, I think this is really important too. And I'll just preface what I'm going to say with your question. First, if you have a cat that, you know, obviously when we're introducing new cats into the house, they're, you know, that's a new thing. They have to establish the territory, just like Julianne is talking about. But if you have cats that all of a sudden you're seeing this like behavior change, and you're seeing them fight, or they're becoming more aggressive, or they're hiding more, or one's becoming, you know, more timid, or there's just a dynamic shift in the house, make sure you rule out a physical health condition by going to the vet and most likely getting blood work done, having a full physical exam, because common cat diseases are hyperthyroidism, osteoarthritis, dental disease. There could be a nervous system issue. So we want to make sure that we're not missing something that we can treat. So all those conditions can be treated with, you know, I know conventional medications sometimes are needed, like with hyperthyroidism, but there's a lot of herbal medicine and natural options too. So we want to make sure that we aren't missing something that's creating that. So keep that in mind for your cats, any cat that you have now, and like in the future too, with any future cats, because that's really important. Now, in terms of when we have like chronic stress, like let's think about like acute stressors. So the way our bodies are we have this fight or flight response, right? That's our sympathetic nervous system. We all have it, and it's there to protect us. So if we look at, okay, if we need to run away from the tiger, you know, most of us are not in that state. Thank goodness. We don't have tigers chasing us. I know some people live like that, but that's where our sympathetic nervous system kicks in. We get that adrenaline rush. We get steroids that are released to help us move and go. So you're either going to flee or you're going to fight. Now, the same thing's happening with our cats. So that acute stressor is there for a reason. But the problem is when those acute stressors now turn into a chronic stressor. So, you know, I'm pretty sure every single one of us here have gone through something where like introducing a new cat can turn into a chronic stressor if we're not able to see these signs or provide the right enrichment and adjust and adapt for our cats. So what happens then is they go into this chronic state of sympathetic overdrive. So if you think about all these hormones and like the steroids, the cortisol are being produced all the time, that can create inflammation in the body. It can directly impact the gut. So our cats, we're diverting blood flow away from their digestion. So they're not going to absorb and digest their food as well. We know there's a gut-brain axis also. So this is also where not only is the stress going to directly impact the gut and the microbiome and all the bacteria there and digestion, but it's also going to lead to things called brain on fire. And that's that neuroinflammation. And it can make our cats more hyper vigilant. They can also, you know, become more, we see symptoms of stress. So they can be more reactive, they can hide, but it can also lead to other health problems down the road. So, you know, specifically with Julianne and Leo, if we already have a chronic health condition, sometimes we can see those things flare up. Because if we go into a chronic state of stress, we're increasing the amount of inflammation in the body. So it's really important that we recognize that and we do all the beautiful things that we can and all the wonderful options we're going to talk about today to help bring that stress down and remove it. So that way our cats don't go into this chronically active stressed state and pro-inflammatory state. And there's, you know, definitely a lot of ways we've talked about stress in the past too, I believe on other roundtable discussions, but there's so many different ways from food to supplements, to environmental enrichment, to play, to engaging with our cats, just even meditating ourselves, making sure that we're addressing our stress states too, because they will pick up on our stress. I don't know if like you've ever been in a situation where your cats are getting, you know, doing something that they're not supposed to, and you start yelling or you start doing things that aggravate them more, usually it doesn't resolve the behavior problem. It actually makes things worse because of that. And that's all part of the sympathetic nervous system state. We want them to calm down. We want them to be commonly in what are called the opposite of that, the parasympathetic nervous state. That's your rest and digest phase. So we want to be thinking about that because there is a physiological component to what we're talking about today also.
Absolutely.
Pam, I feel like I know you're a little distracted right now. Pam has 2 new babies that just came home on Thursday, bringing her beautiful family of 2, now up to 4. So she now has 3 girls and 1 boy and is going through the introduction process. Do you have anything spinning in your head right now as far as you're not having any issues yet?
No, I'm going at Aylin's pace because she is the one who was the most sensitive. So I just always remember Julianne saying, we go at the slowest cat's pace in terms of introductions. They're setting their boundaries. The older cats are setting their boundaries. They're kind of on the perimeter now, and they're very curious, and they like to watch them when they're in a play session. They don't want to engage yet, and they don't feel comfortable when they get too close to them. So they'll give a little hiss or whatever. And Aylin, bless her heart, she'll growl a little bit, but we resolve it really quick and, just redirect them away from her and then she's fine, so, but fortunately no fights or anything like that yet. It's just going to take a few more days for them to get comfortable and, not feel threatened. It's so funny because Aylin is such a dominant personality, in a wonderful way, but she's so intimidated by these 2. It's such a opposite of what she normally is like, Julian, you may have a thought about that.
Can you see I'm chomping at the bit to talk? Sorry. Yeah, do you know what, that's really interesting you say that, because we have preconceptions about how things will go because of how our cats are, right? Their personality type. Their personality type is it doesn't always come into play when you're looking at like introductions. Because for Aileen, I know you'd had a few problems with her with pooping and literary things before. She may be a big personality, but in her world, like she's like, what the hell is going on in my world, right? There's 2 of these teeny tiny fast little things, like shut the front door, like what on earth is going on type thing, right? And I love the way that you said that when you said we distract, and I thought, oh God, please don't say you're distracting Aylin. When you said we distract them away from her, I thought that was beautiful, because we've got to remember, like, she's allowed to feel what she feels. She's allowed to feel threatened and unsure and cautious, And I love that you gave her the space to feel that by taking them away and doing something with them. I think that is really important. So
yes,
kudos on that one. I said good things.
I think the kitten just clicked the button is what happened.
Yes, the kitten just knocked her out. She'll be back.
While we wait for Pam to come back, Julianne, I think we've already got some questions coming in, multi-cat households and this sort of thing. And I want to address those. What are you doing, Pam?
Did they shut you off?
She's watching on the keyboard.
I was saying good things.
We're all good things. But to touch on what Pam is going through now and what Katie just mentioned too about the stress and the chronic stress, the acute stress, all of that, I think something that would be really valuable for all of us, and we'll get into some of the specifics here, when we do realize that there's fighting going on, and this is a mistake that we make. If we are upstairs and we hear all hell break loose, we will clap, and then we'll try to make a loud noise. Can you please walk us through how can we best intervene? We say, like, yes, intervene
when we're
if this
sure
happens.
that
we know
fighting.
It's a fight. How do we intervene?
Fur is flying everywhere and screaming and
yes. Right. How do we intervene in a way that does not cause more stress? Exacerbate the situation.
Yeah.
So you got a full-on fight going on. There's no question about it. Like, they're fighting and they need to be separated. Do not use a water bottle. No. Do not use a water bottle. Now, I know people have commented about this, and I very rarely am firm about my opinions and rant and things. this is one of those things for me that I am very, very firm about. Like, it is not a good tool in terms of behavior. It damages your relationship with the cat, which is something that none of us want. We all want to love our cats and have good relationships with them. And a water bottle does not do that. It brings in fear and mistrust, and it's heartbreaking. I know it was a tool that was used many, many years ago. You know, my grandma used to use it. My dad has said he's used it. You know, I also know back in the day, people would rub cat's face if they were sick in the sick, you know, like they would do horrible things, right? For me, the water bottle is an outdated behavior tool, and it punishes the cat, which is not the best way to encourage a change of behavior. Now, I appreciate if the cat's fur is flying and there's all sorts of yowls, like you're desperate. I understand that. I've experienced that myself. You know, it's an easy option to grab the water bottle, to squirt it, and to see if it will break it up, right? It won't always do that. So in my opinion and in my experience, so it's not just what I've read and what I've been taught, but in my own experience, I have done the clapping, and this is going to sound batshit crazy, but I have sung like a really high note, right? So what you're trying to do in some way is distract the cat, yeah? Mm-hmm. So they're going at it, they're fighting and all the rest of it. You know, they can't see the wood for the trees because they are in pure survival mode. Right. They are in attack and defend, and nothing is going to stop them, because whatever has caused this, they are in that mental, physical, and emotional state that they have to defend themselves. It is like fight to the death in this moment, right? That is where they are, energetically, emotionally, you know, physically. So you need to distract them. You don't want to go walking in there with your legs, because you could get scratched, you could get harmed. So definitely don't do that. Yes, a clap, great. If you're in the vicinity, you basically need something to pause, even for a split second, their interactions. So clap, or sing a really high note, whatever your song may be. I'm not going to do it online because I'm not going to embarrass myself quite that much tonight. But you want to do some kind of sound distraction, because what will happen is it will break the intensity of their fight. They will pause, because what in a cat's like psyche, they think there's a bigger threat coming. So they've got to pause to see what that is, because they need to decide whether the one that's currently going on is better or worse than the one that's coming, right? But in that split second, you will have one of the cats that will then move, because they will run away, they will hide, they believe that threat is bigger than the one that they're dealing with. So some form of sound distraction or sound diversion is going to be the best bet to break up a fight, in my opinion. The cat won't necessarily know where it's come from, which is why I say, like, if you sing a note or give a really high-pitched note or tone, it's not your normal voice. It's not your, hey, buddy, you know, for my boys. It's not like, hey, Bubba. It's sharp, it's short, it's loud, and it is, in a way, piercing, but they don't know who it comes from. So they don't associate it with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Just I'm looking at the comments. So singing, yeah. So sing. You don't have to be tuneful, TJ. You know, it's not about singing like, you know, I don't know, over the hills or something. Do you know what I mean? It's not about like doing your best sound of music. It's about so when I was training Baby Max, this wasn't about fighting, but when I was doing behavior modification with him as he was a kitten, he was growing up, I would do like really loud, really sharp, you know, that's my no noise. I'm not going to do my fighting noise.
Is that right?
You've got to be really sharp, really, really clear. Like you've got to perfect it. And now I even just do the first bit, and Baby Max is like, looks at me, and then he's like, okay, Mum, you know. But the difference with that, it's not fearful, right? He knows that he's going to get maneuvered before that noise, because what I would do with that noise is make it and then move him away from whatever it was he was doing. And with distraction, with the sound, with the fighting, make a noise, clap, you know, and again, it's not just like normal clapping. You need to do a really big, loud, sharp, you know, like a thunderclap. And then see if you can get toys or get food or basically break them up. You know, you've got to find a way to then decompress them. So it's not just about distracting them. You've got to decompress them, because as Katie said, their nervous system is going to be off the charts. Katie, do you want to talk a bit about that, about that bit?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I have like a tickle in my throat, so I'm like coughing, and so I apologize. I'll get through it. I think this is great. Like, we actually use that like that high pitched noise for our cats, and our cats know what it means because we use it consistently. So in that situation where this is where too, like, training just like Julianne mentioned, like training them before you get into that situation is really helpful. So this is where using like high quality treats and having those around and training them that when they do something good, you can give them a treat to reward them. This is where like our Moki, if we distract them, him and Tico can play quite rough. And Moki's our cerebellar hypoplasia cat. So breaking them up, this is where getting the wand toy out, they like immediately will just like focus on like the feather toy, having those treats, throwing a treat. So he runs after that and it separates them. And then it's something positive and rewarding. So that way they're not stuck in that really strong sympathetic state, and it brings them back down. And two, it's like, it's not destroying that bond that you have with them too. So 100% agree. We all agree with that water bottle situation. We don't want to be squirting them, spraying them, and ruining that relationship, but also increasing that stress. Because all it's going to do is they're essentially going to see the water bottle and they're going to say, I'm just going to go over here and pee on the floor or on the wall or mark over here instead where you can't see me. It's not going to change that behavior. And it's just going to add another layer of stress and probably more behavioral problems that you're going to have to deal with down the road. So, look at what does each cat like when you're in a multi-cat household. Have those things around or easy accessible so you can grab them to help bring down that level of stress and help them decompress after something like that has happened.
Yeah, we just had to do that with Friday. I guess a week or so ago, she ended up getting into a fight with like 3 different cats. And we were like breaking them up. We were, just breaking it up with a noise, but we weren't following it up with anything until it was like, okay, something is going on. We need to remove her from the situation and put her in a separate room. And we turned on cat TV for her and gave her her iPad and but how long do you suggest that you put a cat in timeout, if you will, removing them from the situation?
Is that to me?
Sure.
Yes.
How long's a piece of string? I wouldn't advise any longer than like 24 hours maximum, because you don't want the profile of behavior and territory and scent in the house to change. For Friday, so for Friday, I'd be like, so what's going on, right? Did you say she was the one that's constantly going for others?
Friday is the one that she has a tendency to instigate. Now with Madison will see her and be like, oh, it's coming, and Friday just locks on and goes for her. When it comes to the other cats, it's almost like with Jack, for example, which happened the other week. That day, it was
after she went after Maddie, then Jack went after her. And these are separate situations. Like, it was done. It was deflected, diffused. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then Jack goes after Friday. And then it was Zorro that actually went after Friday shortly thereafter. Right. And we were like, okay.
So, and I want you to kind of look at this too, for everyone that's talking about having these different factions of kitties, right? You've got that are even Mr. Milligan here with litter mates that they just don't get along. Or you have, as in our situation, it was initially just Madison. That was the one that was very reserved. And Friday would be the hunter. It wasn't like she was testing boundaries. It was, she was going after her. But now there's the shift in the dynamic where if that happens and things are, we humans think it's diffused. And for the most part, everyone lives in our home just fine. But there are these moments when then Jack will go after Friday, and then Zorro will go after Friday, and then we have Annie now in the mix, and it's just
she's learning that this is the way of the cat.
I love that Julianne said this, and repeat this. Cats aren't doing this out of like, oh hey, you're an ass, get out of my. There's always some kind of emotion that's causing this. So what are the things that we humans can be looking at proactively and preventatively in our case that can help truly diffuse whatever is causing these different factions and fractious kitties?
Yeah. So, I mean, herbs are one thing I would always go to. You know, have you guys got a herb garden down right now?
We don't.
No, not right now.
There we go then. Problem solved. No, I'm joking. Like, you know, so the situation you've described there, like think about, you know, like packs, you know, lions. Do you know what I mean? Like think about wild cats. Let's go back to where they come from. You know, you've got a new a new big cat in the pack. Like everyone's going to be cautious. Everyone's going to be unsettled. Everybody's place is now in question. And I don't mean in terms of hierarchy. I mean in terms of the relationships and the emotional needs that they had met, but also would meet for others. So like in that situation, you know, poor Friday, she may have started it, but the others will have kind of like, in a way, this is a human language, but jumped on board and then start to attack her because there is this understanding of, you know, who's the weaker one here, right? Who is the threat to me? And if one cat sees that Friday is the threat, then another cat's going to think, well, if Jack's attacked Friday, she's, you know, her power level is going to be down to like 80%, if you like. So then Zora might think, oh, do you know what? I'm going to go for Friday because I know she's only at power level 80. So if I go for her now, that'll make her power level 60, even less of a threat. Do you see what I mean? So in that situation, Friday needs, and I wouldn't have said time out, Friday needs chance to decompress and to regroup, and the other cats need to understand that she is there like almost to stay, you know. And it comes back to how can you support them. So you herb garden, like at least 2 if not 3 with the size of place you guys have got, you know, different herbs on each garden. You want to be having one-to-one play with the aggressor and the aggressee, right? So, you know, taking that time out, giving them the support to know that they can be safe. Because right now, fighting in a multi-cat home, if it's continuous, it's about feeling safe, you know. And like you said, we see it as bad. I've seen it as bad. I watch my boys, you know, and someone put a comment earlier about one cat walked past the other. He didn't do anything wrong. That's our projection, people. Like, you know, baby Max walked past Leo the other night and baby Max walked around him, didn't even touch him. Leo booped him and swiped at him. And I was like, oh, buddy. And then I communicated with Leo and I said, you know, Max did nothing wrong. And he said to me, Mum, he crossed a boundary, right? So I'm seeing baby Max as the victim because Leo went for him and he'd done nothing wrong. But in Leo's world, Max had crossed a line. Max had crossed a boundary for him, whether that was personal space or whatever. We need to look at what we're projecting onto our cats when we look at their fighting behavior. Do we see it as wrong what they're doing? Now, yes, if the cat is being harmed, that is obviously not what we want to happen. But take a step back and look at the dynamic that's going on and who is doing what, because it all comes from emotion. It all comes from an emotion. And the more you can find out what that is, the easier it will be to support them. And that will then reduce the fighting. It's not about stopping the fighting. It's about finding the emotion that's not being met. That will then stop the fighting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Julianne, can you talk a little bit more about the herbs?
Yes.
Angie's asking if you could go into a little bit suggestions of what herbs to use, where explain. I know we know here, but for those that don't know, what is an herb garden?
Yeah, so it's basically where you get a towel or a blanket and you put it in a nice quiet space of the home. So not somewhere that's a heavy foot traffic place, you know, not a hallway or necessarily the front room. We've got one in the dining room and one in our spare bedroom. So you put down a towel or a blanket of a good size and you put some dried herb in each of the 4 corners. I don't put more than 4 herbs down because the cat can get overwhelmed. Okay. And each herb or flower has its own frequency, so has its own healing properties. So if you think about if you're getting a massage, you don't want 6 different oils on you because the smells are just a bit like, oh, that's a bit too much, you know. So limit it to 4 and dried flower or herb in each of the 4 corners. And that's it. That's all you need to do. You let the cat rub around, roll around, sit by it, sit on it, lick it, ingest it, rub their face against it, play with it. Every cat is different. Every cat will use them different. Every cat, every time will interact with the herbs differently. Okay. Now, if you think about chamomile tea, you know, if you've got a bit of an upset tummy or you're feeling quite stressed, you might have chamomile and peppermint tea. Those properties are just the same as for cats. So if you're looking at aggressive cats, I would definitely, I'm looking down because I've got a list of all my herbs. I would definitely say chamomile for sure, because it's calming. Okay. Valerian root, always a go-to for me. Valerian root, it smells like sweaty feet. I can't stand it. My boys love it. I've actually currently got some valerian root powder down for Leo, he's licking it and it stinks. So valerian root, chamomile, and then I would say, I'd probably say rosebuds again. Rose are a genuine favorite of mine on every herb garden, and probably lemon balm. So all of these are dried. They're not fresh. You can try fresh, but I'm more comfortable using dry. Get organic if you can, because if the cats do ingest it, you don't want them, particularly rosebuds. You don't want them treated with any perfumes and things. And you let the cat do what they need to. It helps their nervous system. It helps their mental state, their emotional state, relaxes their physical body, reduces aggression. Like, the lists are endless. I mean, I know Katie and Pam have both used herbs with their cats, haven't you, ladies?
Yeah. I was going to say, with Kiwi, our cat, who's, she's our most she doesn't like interacting with the other two. She likes being with me. I'm her person and her rock, and she can get stressed really easily. I use hops a lot with her. She self-selects hops. Nice. So you think about hop, it's not going to make them drunk. So don't worry. I know hops it makes beer, but it's a great nervine. It's going to calm that nervous system too. So I love, using the dried herbs and, looking at those properties of herbs. And, every time I put herbs down, I don't know what the cats are going to do. So I just release all expectations, and I'm just putting it down so that, if today they want to self-select this, great. And I use a rotation of different herbs for them. So it's definitely a really easy tool. I know Pam, you probably agree, but we've loved using it for all of our cats, and they've really enjoyed it, and they all use it very differently, and they interact with it differently every single time we put it down.
It's funny because we always have the herbs on us, and then it's we just like our product. So Cat Calm is our calming formula, and it's made of 80 different herbs. It has 80 different herbs in it. And I think it was Lindsay. I don't remember who was. We
were just telling Pam this,
we were just saying how our cats were fighting, and we were getting stressed out about it, and what are we going to do? And she said, "Are you using Cat Calm?" And we're like, duh. The same thing with the herbs with you guys. It's why don't I think of that? Whenever you tell me, it helped with Annie, after her healing, after her spay, for her introduction here, it helps so much. Every time that somebody tells us to use herbs, we use herbs.
You can't always see clearly, though, can you? I mean, Pam and I, we speak a lot about our own cats. We both do energy work and the kind of emotional connection piece. And in fact, and with Katie, I've spoken to both of these beautiful ladies and said, I'm stuck. I need help with the boys, whether it's asthma or Leo, energetically, I couldn't connect to him. And I asked Pam, when it's your own, it can be really hard to take a step back, and to see what you could try, to see what you could do. And I think if you're in that space that you don't know what to do, you definitely just need to pause, and
reach out to you guys.
Yeah.
And also too, I mean, Julianne, I'm seeing all sorts of questions, and Julianne has an amazing book, The Aromatic Cat. It's sitting right behind her. I have one, and I pull it out. I pull it out when I use it with clients and create plans for them. I use it for my own cats. It literally details everything out. So I'm going to put that plug in for Julianne, because it's been a huge help for me and so many of my patients. And you can get it on Amazon. You can literally buy it on Amazon. So, and Julianne also has herb kits that you can order too. Dr. Judy Morgan sells Julianne's herb kits for if you're in the States. And then obviously if you're in Julianne's part of the world, you can, purchase them from her. But, any organic herb source, if you can't access that, what I end up doing is I buy the herbs that I use the most in bulk from places like Mountain Rose Herbs, and there's other herbal suppliers. because then that way I have enough on hand to rotate through and use it quite frequently. But I love the kits that Julianne has, because you can see like, what are my cats selecting? And you can start with smaller quantities and then you can refill them. Or if they're loving that, you can continue to buy those different packs. But the nice thing, I was shocked when I first learned about the whole like self-selection and how we can use it and how simple it is. Like there's literally no wrong way that you can do it, I feel like. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julianne, but
the only way you can do it wrong is if you add it to food. Right. Now these aren't a supplement. These are an enrichment tool, an emotional behavior, an emotional support tool. Right. So I'm all for supplements, but that is different. So with self-selection with herbs, as long as you put it down somewhere where the cat can get to it, you can't do it wrong. And if you've got a multi-cat home, the rule with herb gardens is like litter trays, 1 per cat plus a spare. So like with you ladies, I say 3 minimum. I don't know how much space you've got, but you don't want to add to the tension in the home by the cats wanting to get to the relaxing herbs, and they can't because you've only got 1 garden down, because that will induce more stress, because they're essentially fighting over a territory, fighting over a resource, which you don't want to happen.
And how long do you leave them down? I know there's some specific questions coming in as far as how much to use, and like for us, just because I know that our babies tend to get the herbs everywhere. So it's like, how long do you leave down the herbs?
The herbs. So I would say good for a week. And I saw someone say about how much to put down. A really bloody good pinch. Don't go putting down the same amount. Like if you put salt in your food, you put a tiny pinch. No, people. I'm talking like, half the palm of your hand filled with herbs. You need to put a good amount down. And they may get it everywhere. Like this is going to be like litter. You just got to suck it up, but know that if it gets everywhere, that means your cat has enjoyed it. That means your cat has healed itself. That cat has shifted emotions by working with those herbs. One of the most crushing things for me is that I put a herb garden down and nothing moves for a week. Because Leo's not interested. Baby Max is fine. I'm like, oh, gutted. So you want to see action on that garden, so I would say a week. And if they eat it, don't panic. They are very, very wise. I've got all the details about eating it, how they use the herb gardens in the book. Trust in your cat. You have to let go of control. Like Katie said, she doesn't know how they're going to show up every time the cat uses it. It's absolutely true. Don't expect or anticipate your cat to do a certain thing or to be a certain way with the herbs or in general. They are all unique and they will do what they need if you give them the chance to do so.
I want to touch a little bit because I do see a couple other questions coming in just about like hissing and stuff. So I think something that we've learned that our dear Pooh Bear taught us. Sometimes you will have a cat in your home or more than one, and they really do prefer to be that solitary being. They may bond with one other cat, but I think, we see how our cats act with us and we think, oh, that's their personality. And yet we watch them interact with each other and it's like, oh, that is crazy. That is like, what is happening, right? So I think, like you said, I think right off the top, Julianne, that our cats don't do anything without a reason, without it coming from an emotion. It's not about being dominant necessarily or being revenge peeing or all the things that we humans are like, oh, what a little bugger. But I think that it is true that as much as we may want all of our cats to all come snuggle on the bed at night, that there will be cats that just don't want to be lovey with each other. And hissing is one of those things. I believe it was Dr. Marcy Koski, Feline Behavior Solutions, or Cat Behavior Alliance that said to us, you got to look at hissing as kind of a reactive behavior, kind of like if someone were to jump out of the closet and scare you and you're like, that's what a hiss is for cats. What is your take on that? And what can we do in situations where we are having hissing going on or anything? Is it just part of their communication?
Yeah, hissing is a very clear no thank you. It's a boundary crossed very clearly, and hissing is like a swipe, it's like a boop. But we don't think of it as dramatic, whereas hissing for us is our reaction to the hiss that we're uncomfortable. Oh my God, something's wrong. Well, the cat's just saying no. And that's what they need to do, right? So we're uncomfortable because we think, oh my God, the cat's really stressed, they're hissing. Well, yes, we don't want a hissing cat all day, every day, because cats that are perhaps in shutdown mode, like in rescue centers and things, they are hissing because they are like big signs of no's. But generally speaking, in the home, the cat's hissing, they are setting boundaries just in a different way, Try to look at what was the precursor to the hissing, right? Was it the surprise? Like with my two, Leo's isn't really a big hisser. He will spit sometimes if baby Max goes to play and Leo's like not in the mood, but how often is it happening again? This is a frequency thing. So if you've got changes in the home, you've got Annie, you've got Skylar, and I want to say Breeze. Yeah. If there is the occasional hiss, that's okay. Like, things are changing in the home. Be patient and look at how you can support them with herbs. And let's not forget what Katie said, play. That's such a simple and effective mode of engagement and relationship building and confidence building and emotional support. Like, play is one of the things we do the least. Like, I do it the least. I'm a behaviorist. Like, it's one of the things I do the least. Yeah. And it is one of the most impactful, powerful things we can do that supports our cats emotionally, physically, and mentally.
That is so true and so important, and such a great value to bring to everyone. Because it's you think about like the cats that go after each other, and it starts, like you said at the beginning, it starts as play, and then it turns into a fight. And how much of that could be avoided if they had a regular full-on playtime, sessions every day where they get to go through that prey sequence and hunt, but with just something else, not someone else, right? Like to be able to go through that prey sequence and get that energy out without it turning on each other. Very smart.
And like Pam and I, we talk about energy all the time, and Pam, I'm going to come to you on this. Like, energy is so important. So that prey sequence, that's not just like a nurture thing. It's not just a behavior thing. Like, that is an energy release, you know? So Pam, what are you doing with yours, before you had the littlies and now that you've got a huge family? How are you dealing with the energy in the home? Because I imagine it's, you're aware of the behavior responses from Aileen and Gunnar, which we've talked about, the hissing and things like that. But what are you doing in terms of like managing energy? Because we know it's crucial when it comes to dealing with tension.
Yeah. Well, I keep the little ones separate to minimize the stress on the other ones because they're new. So they're sequestered in their own little room. And then I'll bring them out when either the other two are on the back patio or porch, and they're having their happy moments out there, and the little ones can roam around and they have seen the whole house and been in everything, I assure you. But they're safe, and everyone's happy, and so when I bring the others back in, I just have to really be mindful of the older two's emotions always first. So I will put the little ones up in their room. If I can't supervise, if I don't leave them out when I'm not here. And I just want to make sure that my other two are happy. And when they're having an emotional meltdown or something, I actually end up doing a lot of energy work on them to help them move that emotion, and process that, because they have the right to feel that way. As you were saying, they have to process that. They have to shift. They have to feel heard. They have to feel supported by me. And the energy work that I do on them definitely helps them transmute that negativity.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that. I was like, how many energy clearing sessions have you had to do in the past 5 days?
I cannot even count them on two hands.
Well, we can't start dropping you, so can't have you do a little energy cleansing over here for you're gonna be busy
Oh
for
my
you.
gosh. It was pretty intense the first day. Second day I got smart and like, I'm not doing this all day. I'll just let you process it through the day and then I'll do it at the end of the day or, whatever. And we just managed those territories and access points. And actually what I had to do a lot, and this has been really helpful, is used a flower essence called Animal Relief Formula. And I sprayed it on me and I put it on my arms and my shirt because that's where the kitten's scent was. So whenever I would go up to my other kitties, they're smelling this wonderful calming flower essence, on top of their scent. So we're trying to blend those scents and get them used to everybody. That's really been a game changer.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
I know we're already starting to run out of time, but I want to this is such a huge topic. I know that probably all of us are contacted about, what do I do? My cats are fighting. And right now we're like, well, here are the things that we're trying. And now we are remembering more tools in our tool belt.
The herb garden is going down.
Yeah.
Right after this.
As many places as we can. But I want to do a little recap and make sure we're not missing any big things that anyone wants to weigh in on here. I think, Julianne, just starting off, being able for us humans to identify the difference between fighting and playing. When we recognize that fighting is happening, like Dr. Katie said, we really do need to evaluate. Cats that are uncomfortable or sick or something's brewing, they will, especially if it's a sudden change in behavior, if they're suddenly fighting, we have got to bring them in for a wellness exam, full blood panel, probably a urinalysis, really get their health checked out. If it is something in our home that is causing it, our stress contributes to this. Their stress that we don't necessarily know how to translate their cat boundaries and the territory that they're trying to feel secure in. This isn't about being necessarily dominant. It's coming from a place of, Julianne, like you said, an emotion that needs to be met in some way. Then to intervene, you guys, big take home, let's stop with the water bottles. Do not, you're contributing more to an environment of fear and damaging relationships. Something that here is the whacking a newspaper, something like that. No physical punishment, guys.
Why am I hearing our echo?
Yeah.
You guys, you're echoing.
It's like you're saying it like to make it maximum impact.
Like God. Like
instead, we want to intervene by making our cats pause, a high-pitched noise, a clap. I know that we've actually used before just putting a cushion in between them slowly, like, hey guys, this is happening.
If that's available at the time.
And then being very aware of our energy and that there are things that they have to process through. They do have that whole predatory. We've seen it where they're playing and then it turns into a fight that needs intervention. Cats are cats. We always talk about confidence building sessions that bring them through the prey sequence. And when we're dealing with a situation where we're having this kind of energy or tension, that predatory energy needs to go somewhere. So playtime can really be such a great mitigator of these issues as well.
And if you're still having trouble, call Pam and have an energy.
The herb gardens.
Herb gardens.
Yes.
I think one of the things to also is, the herb gardens are, of course, super easy. Do that. Do the energy side thing. Do everything, that Adrienne just mentioned. There's ways to bring down that stress response too. And also, didn't even touch on Chinese herbal medicine and the imbalances that can be present that show up as, a cranky cat that's easily agitated. There's other things that you can do. There's a lot of different natural ways to help them. Even things like CBD. CBD is going to work on the endocannabinoid system, calm things down, especially if you have a chronic state of stress. Sometimes using these for short periods of time to help kind of get their system back into balance is really important. We've talked a lot about food too. So don't forget these important foundations that are going to help optimize your cat's overall health, because they'll feel more calm and balanced when we make sure that we're hitting all of those foundations too. So those are just a couple little other things. If you're trying all of that, it's still not working, there are things that we can layer on to get that added benefits and help rebalance their bodies.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as far as diet is concerned. There was someone that reached out to us not long ago, and they said that their cat was just like their cats were always fighting, and all they did because they just wanted better for their cats was switch them to. They didn't do this because they were fighting. They did this because they wanted their cats to be healthier, and they switched to a fresh food diet, and they stopped fighting. And it's like that gut brain access, like how important it is.
Yeah, there's specific. I mean, there's so many neat things around this area and a lot of research too that, there's certain strains of probiotics that you can use. I mean, there's, calming, I think it's called calming care. I use other products, but, Bifidobacterium longum, there's different strains that calm your cat. And because they're going to work on those interactions and that gut brain access. So like, that's the power of like, there's so many different ways that we can help them, but we also have to make sure that we're getting those foundations and everything Julianne was talking about too, because you can give all the CBD in the world, you can give all the like anti-anxiety meds, but if you haven't done the other things for their environment, the play, all of that stuff, like it's not, you're just going to have a gorked out cat, right? With like the drugs, it doesn't work. And it just essentially doesn't help your cat feel good, and you break your relationship with them. So, keep in mind, there's a lot of different ways to approach it, but go back and re-listen to this and all the amazing wisdom that Julianne shared in terms of, assessing your individual cats and making sure that those foundations are being met.
And so that's so right, Katie. The individual needs of the cat. Like, if you've got two cats, that doesn't mean they're going to get on. Right. If you've got two cats, that doesn't mean that one's going to play, the other one's going to play. That is not how it works. So if you've got two cats and you've got one that has a lot of energy, they like to play, they need interaction, they need contact, connection. And you've got another cat that is really aloof, regardless of the age. You've got another cat that isn't particularly keen on either playing or interacting. You got to put some work in there. Otherwise you are going to constantly have fights. You will constantly have issues where one is going after the other. Then it will become bullying, and there you end up with likely more behavior problems, outside litter trays, things like that. So look at the individual needs of each cat. Am I echoing now?
No,
not to us.
And think about how can you build the relationship. Right. So the two of them, say 2, 5, whatever. Right. If you've got 5, 2 or more, you got to do it in couples. But like, what can you do together? So one of the things I do is that I get a little treat for the boys. We used to have quail eggs. They would be on plates. They would be this far apart, and they'd be facing each other. Then we'd slowly bring it together. That's one of the ways that we brought baby Max and Leo together. Now I know raw quail eggs aren't for everyone. That's a whole other live. So now, I use this really gross, cheesy paste thing. It's nasty, but they have a little bit. I have it on each of my fingers because it was on each of my fingers, and now it's on one on my same hand. And I'm doing a peace symbol, but a party symbol. That's not my intention. However, hey Annie, I put a bit on each finger and offer it to them. So they are literally, this far apart as they're having a treat. That is a positive interaction. Okay. So there will be simple things that you can do to create positive interactions, and they will help to support the nervous system, the body's response, that even impact their gut biome. And I know that may sound bonkers, and that's not my area of expertise. It's totally over to Katie. But when you're happy, when you have a happy moment, think about what that does to your body. Think about how that's going to impact the cats.
Then the endorphins.
Thank you. That's the one. Yes.
I would also just want to add, you can use music to really calm frequencies. It helps chakra balancing. If you go to like YouTube, for example, you can find solfeggio frequencies, and there's different frequencies that help balance every chakra. So play with those, or even like meditation music. Classical music is very calming for cats. So, like when you're not home, or maybe even when you are home, if it's feeling a little tense in your home, put on some really nice calming music, because it makes such a difference.
Yes.
And it helps, break that tension in the air, so to speak, that negative energy. And we just have to remember to manage our own. I'm sorry, Pam. It's the density. You said break that negative energy. It's the density of it. It's the feeling of it, the frequency of it. It's so thick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And our cats feel that.
Yeah.
They do.
Yay. Okay. Well, thank you. I had to take down our names so everybody could see Annie snuggling up on Adrian's.
What's amazing is, and maybe it's just because we actually sit still for a minute, the only time she's come to sit on my lap, we were on an Instagram live once, and then
Yeah.
I think a Facebook Live.
what?
Yeah, she just hears your voice.
Instagram, wasn't it? She sat on you. Hmm.
What?
Was it an Instagram you did, and all of a sudden she just like snuggled like right on your tummy?
And that was her very first time, and we were doing a Q&A, and Adrian's like, I don't know anything. I can't talk. I can't do anything. I don't even know what you're saying.
I can't. It's so special. I mean, I think, we all wish that we had that house of however many babies we had that all snuggled up with us. And I know we hear from people that have, girls, boys, litter mates, rescues, fosters, everyone gets along just fine. And I'm like, how the hell
We have 60 cats and no fights.
right? But for those of us, to your point, Julianne, and if anyone has final thoughts, I think that is probably such a beautiful thing to leave with, is it is about the individual needs of each of our cats. It's not like, oh, we'll just let them work it out, or, it does take a little bit. We bring them into our home. It is a confined space for them. They are little predatory beasties, and being able to kind of plug in as best as we humans can to what those emotional needs are that are not being met in some way.
Yep. So important. Oh my goodness.
Oh, is that Skylar?
It's Skylar. Yeah.
Skylar for the
Baby.
closing shot.
Yes. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope that this is valuable. It was very valuable to us, so I'm really glad that we did this.
We're about to
always
go put
happens in
down.
perfect timing. We're about to put down an airport. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you very soon.
You guys.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Have a great week.
Bye, guys.